United States military operates the most advanced weapon systems on Earth. Fighter jets cost more than small nations spend in a year. Missile defense networks protect entire coastlines. Naval fleets have technology that didn't exist a decade ago. Every year, over $800 billion flows into these systems. That's more money than most countries produce in total. But here's what almost nobody sees. The military doesn't build these weapons. Private companies do. And those companies don't work alone. They depend on thousands of suppliers, material processors, electronics manufacturers, maintenance providers. And one private family positioned themselves across this entire network. In this video, I'll show you three things. First, how modern military systems actually get built. Second, how one family turned that process into a financial system. Third, how this affects markets and prices everywhere. Subscribe for more stories about money, power, and hidden systems. Let me show you how this really works. The US military needs weapons that work perfectly. Lives depend on it. National security depends on it. So the standards are extreme. A fighter jet needs to operate in conditions from desert heat to Arctic cold. Missiles need to hit targets with precision. Communication systems need to work under attack. Every component must meet strict specifications. This creates a unique industry. You can't just start a company and sell to the military tomorrow. You need years of testing, security clearances, proven track records, facilities that meet specific standards. Building a single advanced fighter jet requires over 300,000 individual parts. Those parts come from hundreds of different suppliers across the country. Titanium from one state, electronics from another, specialized sensors from somewhere else. Each supplier must meet military standards. Each component must work with every other component. Everything must be delivered on time because delays cost billions. These aren't one-time purchases. Military programs run for decades. A fighter jet program approved today will still be producing aircraft in 30 years. Those aircraft will need maintenance, upgrades, and parts for another 30 years. We're talking about 60-year commitments. Contracts worth hundreds of billions. Guaranteed revenue streams that span generations. One modern East Coast family understood this early. We'll call them the Ashford Dynasty. To illustrate these systems clearly, this video follows a fictional modern family. But every strategy, financial structure, and market mechanism described is real and used widely across the defense industry. The Ashfords looked at the military supply chain and asked a simple question. Not which company will win the big contract, but something smarter. What will every company need to fulfill that contract? Modern defense programs aren't built by single companies anymore. The prime contractor assembles the final product. But they depend on a network of suppliers, hundreds of them, each one specializing in specific components or processes. The Ashfords didn't try to become a prime contractor. Too much competition, too much attention. Instead, they quietly invested in the suppliers, the companies that process materials, that manufacture electronics, that provide testing equipment, that handle logistics. Small stakes. 15% here, 20% there. Just enough for board seats. Just enough for visibility into what's coming next. Over time, these positions connected, and the financial implications became clear. Let me show you how a modern military program actually works. Then you'll understand the financial opportunity. The military approves a new missile defense system. They need protection against advanced threats. The contract goes to a major defense company. $10 billion for development and initial production. That sounds like the end of the story. But it's just the beginning. That defense company doesn't make missiles from scratch. They integrate components, so they need suppliers. A guidance system from one company, rocket motors from another, advanced electronics from a third, specialized materials from a fourth. Each of those suppliers has their own suppliers. The electronics company needs circuit boards. The materials company needs raw titanium. The guidance system needs precision sensors. On and on down the chain. This creates a network. Hundreds of companies, thousands of contracts, billions of dollars flowing through the system. Most investors try to guess which prime contractor wins the big headline contract. But those contracts are competitive. Margins get squeezed, risk stays high. The Ashfords looked deeper. They invested in companies 3 or 4 layers down the supply chain: the titanium processor, the electronics manufacturer, the sensor calibration company, the testing facility. These companies don't compete for flashy contracts. They provide essential capabilities that every prime contractor needs. Regardless of who wins the main contract, these suppliers stay busy. The Ashfords bought meaningful stakes in multiple suppliers. Not control, just positions. 15% here, 10% there. Enough for insight. Enough for influence on major decisions. When one supplier wins work, it needs materials from another supplier. When that supplier expands, it needs processing from a third. Money flows through the network. And at every stage, the Ashfords benefit financially. Let me give you a specific example. A major fighter jet program gets approved. That creates demand for titanium components. The titanium supplier needs raw material processing. The processor needs specialized equipment. The equipment company needs rare earth elements. 4 different companies, 4 different business models. But the Ashford family office owns meaningful stakes in 3 of them. The fighter program generates billions in contracts over decades. Those billions flow through the supply chain. The family benefits financially at multiple points. Not through manipulation, just through positioning where money naturally flows. Then the Ashfords made another move. They invested in service companies. Military systems don't end at delivery. A fighter jet delivered today needs maintenance for 30 years, upgrades every few years, parts replacement constantly, pilot training, technical support, software updates. These service contracts are worth more than the original sale. A $20 billion aircraft purchase becomes a $60 billion 30-year relationship when you include all the support. Most companies chase the initial sale, the big headline contract. The Ashfords focused on what comes after: predictable maintenance revenue, long-term service agreements, high-margin technical support. By the time others noticed the pattern, the Ashfords were already embedded across the ecosystem. They had the relationships, the board seats, the contracts, the credibility. This sounds distant from your daily life, but it affects you more than you think. The titanium that goes into fighter jets comes from the same processors that serve commercial aviation. The electronics and missile systems use the same rare materials as consumer devices. The factories that make military components could make civilian products. When military spending increases, it pulls resources from civilian markets. Processing capacity gets tight. Materials get scarce. Prices rise across the board. The Ashfords positioned themselves to benefit regardless of where resources flow, military or civilian. Either way, their facilities run at capacity. Either way, revenue stays strong. That's the Ashford Dynasty. But if you think that's surprising, wait until you hear this. Once the Ashfords secured supply chain positions, they expanded the financial model in a brilliant way. Companies that serve the military develop unique capabilities. They can process materials to exact specifications. They can meet strict quality standards. They have security clearances. They have proven track records with demanding clients. That credibility transfers to civilian industries. If you can build navigation systems accurate enough for missiles, you can build systems for autonomous vehicles. If you can process materials for jet engines, you can serve commercial aerospace. If you can manage complex military logistics, you can handle global supply chains. The Ashfords encouraged companies in their network to pursue commercial contracts, not randomly, strategically, using military-proven capabilities to win civilian work. This created a powerful cycle. Military contracts funded research and development. That R&D created advanced technology. The technology won commercial contracts. Commercial revenue funded more R&D, which led to better military capabilities. Each side strengthened the other, and the family benefited financially from both. Then they added another financial layer: financing. Advanced weapon systems are expensive. A squadron of fighter jets costs billions. Many countries want these systems but can't pay up front. They need payment plans, structured financing, long-term arrangements. The Ashfords invested in financial firms that provide this capital. So when a country buys American weapons, they often borrow from institutions the family partially owns. The weapons sale happens. The financing generates interest over years. The family benefits from the sale and from the financing. Then there's training and technical support. Modern weapons are complex. You can't just deliver a missile system and leave. Military personnel need months of training. Systems need integration with existing infrastructure. Software requires updates. Equipment needs ongoing maintenance. The Ashfords owned stakes in contracting companies that provide these services. Multi-year training contracts, renewable support agreements, high-margin technical services. Every initial sale became a long-term relationship, and that relationship generated revenue for decades. A country buys a fighter jet package for $10 billion. The actual 30-year cost includes missiles, spare parts, maintenance, upgrades, training, and technical support. The total reaches $40 billion. The Ashford network touches multiple parts of that $40 billion. Aircraft components, missile guidance systems, materials processing, maintenance contracts, training services, financial arrangements, not through control of any single company, through strategic positions across the ecosystem. And here's where it gets really interesting. This network created an information advantage. When you have board seats across multiple suppliers, you see patterns. You know which programs are getting funded before public announcements. You see which technologies are being prioritized. You understand where bottlenecks are forming. That information is incredibly valuable. You can position capital ahead of program launches. Lock in supplier agreements before prices rise. Shift resources between companies based on what's coming. The Ashfords turned their operational network into an intelligence system. Every company provided signals about future demand. Every relationship provided early warnings about market shifts. The same factories that make military electronics also make components for smartphones. The same material processors that serve defense contractors also serve commercial manufacturers. The same transportation networks that move weapons also move consumer goods. Processing facilities prioritize military contracts because they pay premium rates and offer long-term guarantees. Civilian orders get delayed. Manufacturing capacity gets tight. Material costs rise. Delivery times increase. This is financial positioning at its finest. Not betting on one outcome. Owning the infrastructure that benefits from multiple outcomes. The biggest fortunes don't come from guessing which company wins. They come from owning what every company needs. Not products, infrastructure, not trends, requirements. They owned the processing capacity, supplier relationships, and service networks that every program depends on. This same pattern appears across industries. Electric vehicles need battery materials. AI needs computing infrastructure. Renewable energy needs equipment manufacturing. In each case, the real money sits in the middle layer. The boring parts nobody talks about. Most people ask which company will win. Smart capital asks what every company needs. You can apply this thinking even at smaller scales. Map the ecosystem you work in. Find what everyone needs but nobody wants to build. Position yourself there. The Ashfords also understood time horizons differently. They invested in capabilities that wouldn't pay off for years. They built relationships that wouldn't matter until the next program cycle. They developed positions that wouldn't be fully valued until market conditions changed. Most investors need results this quarter, this year, this exit. But patient capital always wins in the long game. The US military operates the most advanced weapons in the world. Those weapons require an enormous supply chain. That supply chain creates financial opportunities that most people never see. The Ashford Dynasty didn't build wealth through one big move. They built systems. They positioned themselves across an entire ecosystem. They thought in decades while others thought in quarters. They owned infrastructure while others chased headlines. Most importantly, they owned what couldn't be skipped. Every defense program needs materials processing. Every weapon system needs maintenance. Every sale needs financing. Every deployment needs training. By owning stakes across these requirements, the family created a network that generates revenue, regardless of which specific programs succeed. That's true financial positioning. You don't need their scale to apply these principles. You need their mindset. Find the bottleneck in your industry. Build capability there. Stay patient. Compound quietly. Because in the end, systems last longer than trends. And those who own the system always benefit. If you want more stories about hidden structures behind money and finance, subscribe for more. Because once you see the system, you can't unsee it.